Thank my lucky stars to be living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
You're listening to Wild About Liberty on KXEX 1550, where we discuss the importance of our liberty and how to preserve it. Now, here's your host, Terry Wild.
Wild About Liberty. Well, we're going on 3 weeks old, and we're doing our best to put a show together that has some substance and meaning for our audience. You know, the whole point of trying to do what we're doing is to get information, reliable, accurate, trustworthy information out to people, and give as many people who are involved in trying to defend our country and our system of life under the Constitution, and give them the opportunity to tell you what they're doing, what's going on, and how you could possibly help or be involved. And today's guests are pretty impressive. We have two people here that know how to handle radio and television. They're involved in the media. Steve Frank has been doing this a long time, and Josh Fuller is very active, especially at the border and documenting things there. And me and Ellington Smith, well, I don't know what you want to call us, but we're trying. So let me introduce everyone. Josh Fuller, you have been doing Oreo Express for how long?
Now it's been 3-4 years for that.
Yeah.
One.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's been a fun ride. We go all over. We've spent recently, since Biden's been in office, we've been to the border quite a few times. So we've got to experience it, document it. We've been into Mexico, watching what's going on, the open borders, the local towns there, how it's impacting them, and just the folks coming over.
Well, you know, Ellington, we just appreciate you a lot. You have a depth of knowledge. You've been so experienced in a lot of the things that are taking place, especially when it comes to the financial, economic side, but then so many other things. Just give us a minute about your background.
Basically, I've been in the high-tech industry my entire career, and it involves everything from automating, power grid monitoring, ran nuclear power plant control systems, and got into banking by doing encryption for international funds transfers. And then I had my own company, which basically developed product for some of the major security companies. And also I specialized in steganography, which is embedding covert code into code and data. And so that's kind of where my background is. I'm retired. I sit around looking at numbers now.
Well, that whole thing about the embedding of the code, we're going to talk a little bit about that because it's so interesting. And then Steve Frank, you're the head of California Political News and Views. Tell us about it.
Well, I've been doing the daily newsletter called California News and Political News and Views since 1996. I've been active in policy and politics since 1960. And I work with candidates and causes and help groups organize for freedom around the country.
Well, you know, we're going to be talking about the border today. We're going to be talking about immigration, and there's so much disinformation that's out there. It boggles the mind to try and come up with what's really going on. So why don't we get started? What is that immigration and situation where people are coming across the border, Steve? What does that look like right now?
Well, let me give you some numbers. In fiscal year 2022, 302,000 illegal aliens came into California. That was good. because so far in fiscal 2023, 500,000 illegal aliens have come just into California. In 2 years, over 800,000 illegal aliens. So somebody would say, well, how much does that cost? Well, I don't have it broken down by state, but nationally, in fiscal year or calendar year 2022, it cost us $451 billion to house, to clothe, to feed, to educate, to give health care, welfare, and other benefits to illegal aliens. In just 1 year, $500 million went to $500 billion went to illegal aliens, and that's just the beginning of it. That doesn't count the crime that they've caused, the death through fentanyl, the human sexual trafficking that they're involved in. We are a nation in chaos because we no longer have borders. And if a nation has no borders, it is no longer a nation. And
Exactly.
we are fast collapsing as a nation.
Well, Josh, this isn't being done by accident, is it?
No, this is this was all intentional, and your tax dollars are going far and wide to support NGOs in some of these South American companies that are actually you're funding this. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of criminals that come across, and then there's a lot of people that just think that, hey, I'm going to go to the United States. I've been told that once I get there, I'm going to be taken care of. There's a job for me. There's a hotel waiting for me. Actually, today it was interesting. Mayor Eric Adams, he took a flight to go kind of do the czar thing and see what was going on. And a lot of the people he talked to said, we were promised a 5-star hotel and a job when we got there. Now, the people that are actually given a lot of this information is the NGOs, which is a non-governmental organization that is using your tax dollars to help aid in the invasion of our southern border.
Ellington, why are they doing this? This is being done by design. It's being done on purpose. There's a reason behind it. What do you think it is?
Well, I think it's basically some of our leadership downgrading America and actually working against America. I know in Obama's book, he said that he would side with Muslims rather than Israel. And I think the fact that when we withdrew from Afghanistan, instead of blowing up all of the equipment left behind, they left it for the Taliban. And I think that was an intentional thing, because now they're finding some of these weapons coming in through the drug cartels. Afghanistan is selling all of the weapons that were left behind. They found some of them in Israel and Gaza. Some of the Special Forces Operation carbines were found. And I think this is by intentional design. It can't be total incompetence because it's too well coordinated.
It is coordinated. And, Steve, we could talk for hours about all these problems, and they are, serious, and they really need to be discussed in a way that informs people and gives us the truth. But you're very involved and very active trying to give us a solution. How do you see us dealing with this, and what do you think we should be doing?
Well, as you know, there's been a call for what they call immigration reform. And the Democrats have said, we need to have comprehensive immigration reform. Actually, we already have comprehensive immigration reform. All we have to do is enforce the laws that are on the books. For instance, if you, under federal law, it is a felony to encourage illegal aliens to stay in the country. Well, Mayor Eric Adams, by giving away hotel rooms, is encouraging them to stay in the country. He needs to be arrested. they need to kick those illegal aliens out of those hotel rooms. The governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of San Francisco, and other cities support what's called a sanctuary city. If you are here and you're an illegal alien and you're arrested, you will not be turned over to ICE. That is in violation of federal law. Governor Newsom, the Marxist mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, and the socialist mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, need to be arrested for violating federal law. And the city councils and boards of supervisors that continue this sanctuary city protection of illegal aliens are violating the law. At a minimum, they need to be thrown out of office for federal violations. They need to be held up for trial for the felony of protecting criminals from foreign countries. And so that's the beginning.
Why isn't that happening, Josh?
Again, there's no accountability. I mean, what he says is absolutely true, but this goes all the way up to Mayorkas. Mayorkas is undermining the rule of law right now. When when Congress is asking him questions, he is lying about it.
But
let me add one other thing. Under the federal law, if you hire illegal aliens, your company can be closed down and taken over by the federal government under federal law. When Trump was president, he had the DHS do several raids of major corporations and find them a lot of money, force the illegal aliens out of those companies, and there's no reason that this isn't being done today. If a company knowingly hires illegal aliens, they need to be closed down.
Well, this thing goes into the realm of what used to be called conspiracy theory, where you were kind of a nutcase if you propagated these ideas. And I remember the John Birch Society. I went to a couple of their meetings, but I felt I had to sneak in and sneak out because I didn't want anybody to know I went to a John Birch Society meeting. As it turns out, these guys had it down pretty good. They really had the facts and the truth. But this conspiracy, would you call it a conspiracy?
Well, conspiracy is usually made by connecting dots that are facts. So if you have facts, you connect the dots, and you may not have all the facts, but you draw a conclusion, and that becomes a conspiracy. And a lot of that is done because we don't have all the information. But we're seeing that a lot of the conspiracy theories actually have become true, and the facts have all been connected in dots, and people were called conspiracy theories, but the facts are starting to show for themselves now. So that's kind of how I see conspiracy theory. When you see government doing things behind your back or things that are actually unconstitutional, and you connect those dots, those are facts, and that's all becoming true now. We're seeing it every day that more conspiracy theories are actually factual.
And Josh, you've been on the ground, you've seen it, and it is organized, it's coordinated, it's supported by a whole regiment of different government and even military forces. What is the truth? What is the facts on the ground when you were there?
Well, you know what? I was actually proud of my government for 1 second, not because what they were doing, but I've never seen a government agency process anything in a fast manner, whether it's DMV, whether it's the veterans healthcare. But when you go down to Eagle Pass, Texas, and these people come against that barbed wire fence, and we lift that fence or we cut that fence for them to come in, they are literally on a bus within 30 minutes. They are at a processing center within about 45 minutes, just west of Del Rio. And within 24 hours, they are on these nice charter buses going out to these NGOs or to their new homes or to the airport.
With a cell phone.
With a cell phone, with their plane ticket. When I was in San Antonio, there was an NGO down in San Antonio. We were outside, and I followed one of the buses because I'd recognized the bus as one that I had took like 3 days before when I flew into San Antonio. I was like, that's from the airport. So they loaded up this group of illegals, and we followed them all the way to the backside of the airport, and they had these different hangars on the backside of San Antonio Airport that they had these large generators outside of. They had air conditioners on the outside piping in, and they were letting them live there while they get their transition ready. And then when I go walk in the airport to fly home, there are all those people with their orange manila folders going to a city near you. And some of them have court dates, a promise to appear dates in 2027 and 2028.
Incredible.
They're free to do whatever they want while they're here. They're coached by the NGOs on what to say, but when we've interviewed them, none of them are fleeing a war. None of them have an asylum case in our courts. And most of them will say they are not returning for that court date in wherever it is, El Paso.
Why would they?
Yeah, why would they? We're never going to go after them.
Well, this is all coordinated. And Steve, how do you see that working? Who's behind it, and what's their aim?
Well, I'm not exactly sure who's behind it, but it does seem to be a global operation, not just a U.S. operation or U.S. policy. We have governments like Guatemala, Haiti, El Salvador, organizing groups of people to leave the country and to give them direction of how to get into the United States. Some of those are financed by U.S. NGOs, as mentioned before, but they're also financed by corporations, U.S. corporations, that are looking for cheap labor. And so that's part of it. But here in the United States, there is a view by the Democrats and Joe Biden that we don't need borders, that we need people that, and there's been some stories that by the year 2080, the population of the United States is going to go down. And so what they're trying to do is build up the population of the United States by bringing in criminals and folks from other countries to help build us our population. As I mentioned before, in the last 2 years, we've had a little over 800,000 illegal aliens come into the state of California. In the same time, in the year 2022, 831,000 Californians left the state. So even with the increase of illegal aliens, we're still decreasing the population, and in fact, the net population decrease in 2022 was slightly over 300,000 here in California.
Well, my family, part of my family and me, we moved to San Francisco late in 1957, and so we saw the city change over time, where it was very formal. You didn't go shopping without women wore white gloves and hats, and they did their makeup, and just to go shopping. And there was a certain atmosphere associated with being in San Francisco. And now we've seen that change to what it is today. You're stepping over who knows what if you just walk down the street. But that is the picture of a declining culture. And that doesn't happen just by accident. There's a process that you go through as a person and as a country, Ellington, in order to achieve being a declining culture.
Yeah, one of the things I found pretty interesting is the fact that when you look at the homeless people on the street, a lot of them are not immigrants.
No.
And here we talk about taking care of homeless. I've watched small minivans drop immigrants off in Kingsburg, in Fowler, and Fresno. And usually there's about 8 of them. They have backpacks. They have money. The first thing they do is go to one of the stores and buy food or something like that. But they're given cards to use. And this has to be coming from someplace. The other thing that was kind of astonishing is they found that there were 3 immigrants that actually came through New Mexico area, the El Paso area, that had UN peacekeeping identification. There were 3 of them, and they received $2,200 a month. I guess it was from the UN. But these things are happening, and we're confusing issues. I think the number of the cost of all of this is just mind-boggling when we think of what money has gone out to foreign interest and foreign countries, and we can't take care of our own domestic problems.
Yeah, and this lets us realize that the 2024 elections are going to be really, really important. If we don't, our only option that I can see how to turn this around is at the ballot box. If we can't win at the ballot box, then we're done. We just have to accept it. And what are people doing now? How can, just like you said, Steve, they're not being arrested for breaking the law, and I think they're just laughing at us. I think they're just chuckling over that. Look what we can get away with. Gavin Newsom has violated so many things. He's created unlawful laws, and yet we're talking about it, and what can we do about it? So talking about the 2024 elections, how do you see that, and how can we win?
Well, let me just point out that today it was announced out of New York that a major New York political action committee is going to be giving millions of dollars to candidates in California and New York to defeat Republican candidates. In the Central Valley, the 2 candidates that are being targeted by this progressive socialist political action committee with hundreds of thousands of dollars going into these 2 races, they're going to try to defeat David Valadao to the south of you and John Duarte to the north of you. And those are the 2 candidates that this one PAC has targeted with hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Democrat candidate against Valadao and against Duarte. And so the Democrat Party nationally has enlisted a whole bunch of political action committees to take on race by race. Plus, of course, the Democrats are raising much more money than the Republicans. And the Republicans have a problem that sometimes we get divided on our candidates, and we go to defeat them rather than to elect them. And we wind up with people like Josh Harder instead, people like John Garamendi. We need to unite behind our candidates and to give them the resources that are needed. But California is going to be a battleground because the Democrats totally in California nationally are targeting 7 Republicans for defeat. And as I look at the numbers in all 7 of those districts, all of those Republicans can be defeated. And it's going to take a great deal to keep them in office. Right now, we have out of 52 members of Congress, 12 are Republican, and it is possible that at the end of the 24 election, only 5 will be Republican.
So the supermajority becomes even more super.
But what's interesting about that, though, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot there, or at least they do. Marjorie Taylor Greene had the impeachment for Mayorkas. and we had 3 Republicans that voted to refer it to committee or pretty much kill it for right now. And one of them was John Duarte that you were talking about, Darrell Issa, and Tom McClintock, who, again, we're in Central Valley is pretty conservative. We they call us far right for the most part. We voted to, get rid of Gavin Newsom. I mean, when you look at it, and then we see these people up there when there's an opportunity to let your constituents' voice be heard, and then these people do this. So it's interesting because you have to wonder. You would think, personally, from my interaction with Darrell Issa, that he was pretty strong, hard conservative. Why aren't these people voting? I mean, there was only 8 total Republicans that voted against it, and 3 were in California.
Stunning.
Correct.
Who has, again, we always asked you earlier, when Steve said, this is a global thing. I do believe it's global. I don't think, there's higher powers up than our federal government that are being controlled. And you have to ask yourself, is McClintock, Issa, and Duarte, do they have something on them? Because to me, that would come off to me as those people are not going with the country and the will of the voters.
Well, when it comes to the flow of money, that's another conspiracy that is being, beaten around, and yet money is being purposely funneled, not just from America, but from outside forces. And I think you would know more about that than any of us.
The amount of money that has been withdrawn from United States banks now is $175 billion over the last 3 months have disappeared from accounts that were set up with U.S. banks. This is withdrawal of money by people who were in the Middle East that had accounts with U.S. banks. And that money is primarily funneled through Cyprus. And there's a very interesting article that came out by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. These are the people who discovered the Panama Papers and the Pandora Papers. And if you're not familiar with it, the money laundering had to do with Russian money coming into the DNC and the Clinton Foundation. And I encourage anybody to go to the web and look up primarily the Panama Papers. But this money is funding a lot of the demonstrations that are going on in the United States. The PR by Hamas is being funded by a lot of this money, and it's all tracked through Cyprus.
And let's not forget that the rallies around the country in favor of Hamas in Palestine is being supported by a group called the Students for Justice in Palestine, which, when you go back, you find out that group got its money from a group called a Title Center, I believe is the name.
Yep.
And that group is financed by George Soros, and Governor Newsom helped raise money for that organization. So he does not have clean hands.
That's a good
in
point.
This matter. And let's point out that as Jewish students on college campuses in California have been harassed, have been bullied, have been held hostage, the governor has refused to issue a statement against it. He has refused to expel these students, and he's refused to fire the chancellors and the college presidents who have allowed all of this anti-Semitism, bigotry, and harassment on our college campuses. If this was reversed and this was Black students, he'd be on every campus screaming for, that these students be tarred, feathered, and thrown out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But when it comes to the Jewish students, he's helped finance through Title, which is the George Soros Foundation, one of the George Soros foundations, the rallies, such as the one that you just saw a few days ago in Washington, D.C. He helped finance that, and Newsom indirectly helped finance that as well.
So, the other component that we talk about here in all of this is, where's God in all of this? What's going on? And is God active? Is he involved? Does he have any actual effect on what people are doing, what they're not doing? And there's a spiritual element to this that has to be factored in, Ellington. I think we have to have a good understanding of where that is going to take us.
Well, God allowed Israel back in the Old Testament to do its thing against God, and when a nation becomes ungodly, it's the will of the nation that prevails. And you still may have Christians or believers within the community, but the government itself becomes so corrupt and sort of caving in on itself, and God allows that to happen because of the will of the people that are governed.
So if you believe that, and if you're listening and you believe that, then it really helps us with part of the solution. And that is, examine your own life. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I contributing to what God would not accept, and that causes him to withdraw from us and allow these things to happen? I mean, that's sort of the way I see it. And so we have to look at that, don't we, Josh?
Yeah, no, but we really do. And what we're truly doing to these people that are coming here is actually inhumane. Very detailed things happen to these folks as they're traveling from their country to here. Things that you don't even want to mention. And I just think once they get here, you have places, the NGOs like Catholic Charities, this is just the right thing to do. But you know what? Once they're out of sight, they're out of mind. And these people will be living on the streets. And then it's going to affect everybody's quality of life.
Including, most of the Hispanics that we work with and deal with day to day, they're not for open borders. No. They don't want to see this going on. It lowers their wage potential. And so there's an opportunity to coordinate among the different ethnic groups that have a stake in America.
Well, it's interesting you say that. When we were working down, we were in Juarez, Mexico. We went to Tijuana. We went to multiple places on the border when Title 42 was going to end. The locals in, let's say, Juarez, Mexico, they hated that their town was being invaded, is the words that they used. They didn't want them there. They were actually taking some of their jobs because some of them were waiting for Title 42 in Juarez, and they were picking up these little jobs here and there. And they're like, no, look around. They were like, we don't want this here. We want them to go home. And some of them had been waiting in their months for Title 42, thinking they were going to come into the United States the right way. But the locals there, they were like, no. And then people are like, well, we shouldn't let all these people from Mexico in. 99.99% were not. It was hard for us to find anybody coming across the border illegally that was from Mexico, that was turning themselves into Border Patrol.
Yeah, exactly. And Steve, I think you would know the answer to this question more than we would. The idea that we are stopping people from coming in here, they characterize us as the bad guys. We're not humane. We don't have a heart that cares. And so they've defined us that way. And they keep doing that again and again and again. But the question is, do you think the conservative worldview is a majority in California?
Actually, I think the conservative view is a majority in California. The problem is that conservative view is divided among three different categories. You have your traditional conservative, you have, which is people like us, you have your libertarian conservative, which believes that government is just bad and don't worry about anything. We don't need government. Then you have your get-along conservative who doesn't want to rock the boat. They want to be invited to the cool kids table at the party. And so they're not going to really oppose what's going on. They will just do it on the margins. The difference, somebody once said, the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party is that the Democrat Party wants to run everything by government, and the Republican Party wants to run an efficient government. and so that has been the problem on the right, the lack of unity as to values. As far as illegal aliens are concerned, and by the way, let me point out something. If you read the Fresno Bee or the Bakersfield Californian or the LA Times or the Washington Post, you will see the term migrants, that this is a migrant problem. Again, you mentioned before the question of conspiracy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I go to the facts. If you go to the laws that govern immigration, the term that is used in federal legislation is not migrant. It is not undocumented people, like as if the dog ate their documents. No, the federal law talks about illegal aliens,
Right.
which is why I only use that term, because that's what the federal law says, that illegal aliens shall not come into this country, that illegal aliens shall be deported, not migrants, not undocumented workers. And so I'm not a conspiracy person. I just want to use what the law says.
And
if you don't like
common
the law,
sense
change
language. Yeah, that's just common sense.
it. And these people say, well, you shouldn't use the term. Well, okay, I agree with you. If you don't like the term illegal alien in federal law, change it.
Well,
change the federal law.
what's happened with the custom border control, and what are some of the issues involved with that?
Well, some of the numbers from Custom Border Patrol between October 2021 and October 2023. Just going through a list here, I'll pick some of them out. Afghanistan had 6,386 come into the country. Egypt, 3,153. Iran, 659. Syria, 538. I can't say Pakistan. Uzbekistan was 12,624. Turkey was 30,830.
30,000
30,000.
from Turkey.
Right. And Lebanon was 164, Iraq 123, and Mauritania was 15,594. And Mauritania is where those three UN peacekeepers' identification came from three people from that country coming into the. And this is just between October 2021 and October 2023.
Well, it's factual. That what you have are facts. What we're talking about are facts. What Steve has expressed are facts. This isn't just a conspiracy theory or trying to just imagine our own numbers. These are real numbers. And, we only have a few minutes left in the show. And let me just go around the table. And Josh, what are your plans in the near future? How do you see yourself being involved?
We're going to still be on the ground reporting. We'll be back. I'm not sure if it's going to be early December but we're going to be heading back to the border again and probably go into Mexico again, and then go check out some of these NGOs, document them, but just staying up to date and trying to get this information out. One fun fact that's kind of goofy. When people think about the numbers, now all the numbers that are coming out of how many illegals have came here since Biden's been in office, they're all very conservative. But if you think about it, if you take our 10 least populated states, that would be like Wyoming, Vermont, Alaska, South Dakota, Delaware. We've had more people illegally enter the country than the population of those 10 states total since Biden has taken office. I mean, that's for the listeners out there that you just want to comprehend that. And again, they only talk about gotaways. Those are known gotaways. They don't talk about all the people they don't see on camera or by Border Patrol, and those numbers are outrageous as well.
I would imagine that. Steve, what's your near future looking like? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'm going to continue putting out articles and giving speeches and appearing on radio shows and TV
give us your website.
My website is capoliticalnewsandviews.com.
Now, those are news and views that are factual, reliable, trustworthy. So if you want to know the truth, if you're listening and you want the right information, then one more time on the website.
capoliticalnewsandviews.com. And it's a free subscription, easy to just go to that website. You'll see the word subscribe, click on it, put in your email address, and starting the next day at 3 a.m. and 6 days a week, I don't do a report on Sundays, but 6 days a week, you'll get 10 stories of importance to Californians.
Well, that's really appreciated, Steve. And Ellington, what do you see on your horizon?
Well, I'm going to continue to try to pick up data that isn't in the media or isn't presented in the media.
Which is about everything.
And I'd like to just kind of mention, though, that 2 governors have issued terrorist warning. Abbott was one, and over the last 2 weeks, 2 terrorists were basically captured. One was making a bomb. Both of them were from Jordan, and this is over the last 2 weeks. They all came here illegally through the southern border. And I want to try to get more information on the risk factor of where we are with all of this and have the correct numbers down for that.
That would be really important.
Yeah. So.
Well, I sure appreciate all of you coming on the show. It's such a joy. You guys are so prepared, and you're working hard every day to give us this information, and we appreciate it. You know, Wild About Liberty, we're on Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 in the evening. We taped some of our shows earlier, and we have a show coming up Friday that I really am looking forward to, and it's going to be with a live audience. So we started out with a live audience, and now we're going to put another one together this coming Friday. It's going to be taped starting at 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And we have our topic is God, business, and politics. All the 3 things you're not supposed to talk about in public. But we've got a great lineup of guests. Tom Summers, who's been a pillar in the community for many, many years. Bill Smitkamp, who's one of the leading business people in the county, and Pastor Jimmy. Oh boy! Well, I just did a brain freeze on Jimmy Foote, and it's actually Pastor Jimmy Foote. He's going to be here, and so we encourage you to come. If you want to have lunch, we'll be serving lunch at 12 o'clock. Become part of the audience. Our special guest host is going to be Alan Autry, who is our former mayor and our local celebrity that we love very much. And some people call him Bubba. And so Alan Autry will be co-hosting, I'll be hosting, and we're going to have a really exciting time with a live audience. So if you can make it, show up here. The show starts at 1. We'll be serving lunch starting at 12, and we'd really like to have you on board. So we're here to give you information. We're here to encourage you that we are in the majority. That's our belief. We think and estimate that the conservative viewpoint is the viewpoint that can dominate if we can get united, if we can get organized, if we can work together, and if we can plan. The missing element, though, Steve, is money. It's always money. And to hear the numbers that the Democrats and the Soroses and all of the Facebook people and all these tech companies people, they're just pouring money out like a river. And we are struggling all the time, at least we are at Liberty Coalition, and most people I know are struggling for money, but we're going to try and make a difference. 2024, we want to win that election. So, parting words, Steve, what would you tell us?
I would just say it's not enough to complain about a problem. You need to get active. You need to work for the candidate of your choice. Make sure they stand with you on constitutional grounds and enforcing the law, and work hard for them. Don't just complain over a burger that you don't like what's going on in Washington or Sacramento. Do something about it.
And
stop complaining.
That characterizes Josh to my right here. Josh, thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you,
we
guys.
We appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and thank you, Ellington.
Thank you.
Wild About Liberty. We're here every day, Monday through Friday. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to Wild About Liberty with Terry Wild, only on KXCX 1550.
Stands for freedom, and they can't take